Welcome to today's tutorial brought to you by Storyblocks. I'm Will Bartlett, and in this video I'm going to walk you through how to use the new content-aware fill feature inside After Effects to remove unwanted elements from your footage. The clip I'll be using was downloaded from storyblocks.com, and in our example we will be removing the people walking on the beach. The content-aware fill has existed for several years inside Photoshop to remove elements from images, but now for the first time this feature is available for video inside After Effects. With After Effects open and our footage imported into our project window, let's click and drag it down into the new composition button, and then that'll create a composition that's the same length and setup as our footage. So let's have a look at this footage and see what we're working with. So at the beginning of the clip we have a person walking, and then eventually they leave the frame, and throughout the whole clip there are two other people with a dog walking along the beach as well. Now in order for this effect to work, you need to be working with the right type of footage. This workflow will not work on every clip that you have, and as you start to work with it more, you'll get an idea for the types of footage it can work with. In this case, there's nothing that really interferes with the people walking. It's a pretty static background and the camera doesn't move all that much. In this scenario, it should work pretty well. We will get to the final result by doing the workflow twice. So we'll do it for the people here, and then we'll do it again for the person on the left. So let's start with the two people and the dog. So with our clip selected, let's select the pen tool. And before we draw around them, let's scan through our footage to see what happens with this group of people. So right here, the dog is a little bit ahead of them, and then eventually the people catch up with the dog. So this will be a good reference point because this will be the largest point in the mask that we need to create. So let's zoom into 100%. We'll hold spacebar to reposition the frame. And then with the pen tool, we'll draw a mask. We'll go back to our main selection tool. And that should work perfect for our example. On our mask layer, we'll set it to none. That way we can see the whole frame. And then we will create a keyframe for the mask path. Then we'll move the cursor throughout our timeline at certain spots and reposition the mask. And when we move the mask, we'll try to keep it so that the people are in the same area. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer we can get, the better. And then we'll go roughly in the middle of each keyframe to make sure that our mask does cover the two people and the dog the entire time. So we'll go back to Fit, and then we'll go to Window, Content Aware Fill. Then we'll go down to our mask, and we'll set it to Subtract. That will subtract that area from our frame throughout our entire composition. Up in the Content Aware Fill panel, under Fill Method, we'll make sure that says Object. If we wanted to remove a logo, we could use the surface, but for us, we'll use the object. And for range, we want to make sure it says Work Area because our mask lasts the entire length of our composition. At this stage, we could hit the Generate Fill layer and it would do its best job at filling in the background here on our mask throughout our composition. However, I've found that it doesn't always do a great job and you can get a better result by creating a reference frame. Let's go back to our mask and go to None so that it's as if there's no mask applied. Then we'll create a reference frame and that will open Photoshop. Let's change to the Lasso tool and then we will click and make a selection around the people here. We'll hold Shift and press Delete on our keyboard. That'll open up Content Aware. We'll hit OK and then that will remove the people from the scene. And then we'll do the same for the dog. We will go to File, Save, and then go back into After Effects. And then you'll notice that it created a reference layer that's only one frame long. This will help the content-aware fill in After Effects do a better job at replacing the background throughout the video. We'll click on our mask, set it to Subtract, and it looks like we've completed it, but really we're just seeing the reference frame behind on that one frame. So now that we have a reference frame, let's click Generate Fill Layer. And then we'll wait for this to analyze and complete. It may take longer depending on the computer you have. Now that that's done, you can see that it's created a fill PNG sequence that sits above our footage. And then now if you scrub through, you'll see just like magic, those people and the dog are now gone. So next let's do the person at the beginning. It'll be the exact same workflow, so I'll go a little faster now. We'll go to the frame that has the person the most in it. we'll set the mask to none. And then with the timeline cursor still in our first frame, we will create another reference frame for our footage. We'll get our lasso tool. And making sure we're getting the shadow here. Shift delete, file save. We'll go back to After Effects. And then you can see it's created another frame for us. We'll go into 100%, we'll hold spacebar. We'll click on our footage layer, go to our pen tool, and then once again, we'll draw a mask around the person. We'll make sure both our masks are turned off. This will allow us once more to see what we're doing throughout our whole composition here. We'll create a keyframe. And then once again, we'll move our mask to follow the person. And we'll try to keep it roughly in the same spot every time. For the second half of it, we don't need to really worry about it because the mask will be off screen. And that should be enough. We'll go back to fit. And then once again, we'll turn the mask to subtract. And then because we've already created another mask and have a fill sequence working on another part of the frame, we want to make sure before we hit generate fill the second time, we turn off the first one as well as the reference frame. Then we'll hit generate fill layer. Now that it's done, it's created a second PNG layer that has filled up the spot at the beginning. Now let's turn back on our first fill layer, our reference frame, and then we'll scrub through, and the effect is now complete except for one thing right here. So there's one frame that is still showing up, and that's because our mask one is set to none. So let's go to subtract, and let's preview our finished result. And as you can see, the people and the dog are now gone, so that worked out very well for this footage. However, depending on the footage you're working with, it might not work as well. In fact, sometimes it might not work at all. It's always good as an editor to know different techniques and workflows. Okay, that brings us to the end of this After Effects video tutorial brought to you by Storyblocks. My name is Will Bartlett, and we'll see you next time.